Hey everybody, it's Paul.
And Steve.
And we are back to discuss it all.
And today we're going to be talking about our favorite toys growing up.
Oh, this is going to be awesome.
So our favorite toys, the things that we just loved. And I'm really excited to hear your list, Paul. You know, you may not know, we don't talk about these lists before we sit down to do this.
That's right.
So we just come up with what the lists are going to be, and then we sit down, and in front of you we talk about them, we discuss them for the first time. So I'm not sure what's on Paul's list.
Yeah, and I don't know what's on Steve's list.
So I'm excited to hear, and just keep in mind that you can always down in the comments share with us, you know, ideas of lists that maybe you would like to hear. And in addition to that, when we reach 500 subscribers, we want to do a Q&A video.
That's right.
Maybe even a series of Q&A videos. And so you can drop your comments or your questions down there in the comments, and as soon as we reach 500 subscribers in the next day or two, then we will answer those questions.
That's right.
So it'll be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
Okay.
I want to hear one of your favorite toys first.
Okay. All right. So I was born in 1974, just to kind of give you some context, and undoubtedly probably the toy I have the most personal connection to, because it was one of my first big toys and first big toy collections is going to be Star Wars action figures.
Absolutely.
The original Star Wars action figures from Kenner. The figures, the vehicles, I didn't have all of them, nowhere close, but I had a bunch, and the crown jewel of my collection was definitely Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
I loved him as a character in the movies, even though he was on screen in the original trilogy for less than 5 minutes total.
He was still a great figurine.
Yeah, and I think he only had one line, maybe two or three lines. Just an amazing character. Love that. I also had several stormtroopers, several Imperial stormtroopers. I like the bad guys. So, in my favorite vehicle, even though I only had it for a brief period of time, was the AT-AT.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's funny because so many people I talk to are like all about the Millennium Falcon or the X-wing.
Right.
I was much more about the Imperial forces. Sure. And those guys, I like the styling of their stuff better, like the styling of their characters.
Yeah.
Just more menacing. Maybe I had problems as a kid.
Maybe so. Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's one of the things we should discuss.
Yeah. Paul's top 5 weird things about Paul.
Negative influences.
So Star Wars toys is going to be my number one.
And of course, that would be on my list as well. I mean, that's, you know, you can't be a kid from the 70s and 80s and not love the Star Wars toys. And I had the Death Star that was kind of just the half Death Star, and Obi-Wan Kenobi could go and he could turn the tractor beam off, and
power generator.
Yeah. So it was those were great. I mean, they were well-made toys, and in some ways, what Star Wars represented in the 70s was this attempt to be able to commercialize these movies, where you know, the enjoyment of the movie goes beyond just the film itself. To all of these action figures, and they were great. They were designed well. I still have them when we go to my mom's house. Went to my mom's house when my kids were little. They still played with all my action figures from the 70s and the 80s. And I remember looking through the JCPenney catalog, getting ready for Christmas, and wondering, okay, am I going to get this one, and am I going to get this one, and circling them to give them to Santa Claus.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah, it was great.
I loved that when you get the toy catalog.
Yeah.
We had a store called Best, which is not around anymore.
Yeah.
But similar. Department store, fulfillment center kind of thing. And we get that toy catalog. Boy, I'd pour over that like a stockbroker analyzing.
Wear it out.
The financials.
Yes. And then when you got it, you open them up, you set them up, and it's so much fun.
Great.
That has to be the best toy
Yeah.
or set of collection of toys from the 70s. And
Yeah.
80s.
Oh god.
Star Wars.
Well, I've got one that's.
You got another.
I've got another one. But yeah.
All right.
So that's going to start my list off.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to start my list off kind of with an electronic game. There was a handheld electronic football game, and they had one that was football, they had one that was baseball, and one that was basketball.
Yep.
And I have all three of them.
Okay.
And so the football one was this green. It was actually called Football 2. And it was the one where you had the little flashing cursor that you could pass. And I love that game. I could sit and for hours, I could play either the baseball, the basketball, or the football. Just loved playing that game.
So I remember those. Now I never owned any of them, but I remember vividly those games because all my friends at least had one of them.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I didn't understand the rules of football until I was at least 12 years old.
Oh, right.
Or 13.
Right. Yep.
I would play pickup football, and I understood, hey, I'm on this team, I'm going to stop these people from bringing the ball this way.
The only rules that matter.
Or I'm trying to get the ball this way. But luckily there was always older kids that were like, okay, we're trying for first down. Like, I don't know what that means.
Whatever that
We're
means.
going to try and get it. Okay,
that's right. Go as far as you can.
So I didn't understand the rules, and so you could play back and forth like head to head.
Yeah, that's right.
On that, and this older kid who played football and understood it, he was, well, let's play. I mean, he must have had a blast beating me because I was terrible at it.
Just weird, yeah.
Just terrible.
Well, a few years ago, it's probably 10 or 15 years ago now, but it seems like just a few years ago, they reissued that game, and my wife bought me one for Christmas. So I have one right now.
Okay.
It's been 3 or 4 years probably since I played, but in anticipation of this, I looked for it, and I wasn't able to find it. But if I can find that, I'm going to play that game again.
Okay.
It was a great game. I loved it. So many great memories playing that game.
Yeah. So did you play head to head, or did you play?
I would play by myself all the time, but then we would also play head to head.
Yeah.
So sometimes when all the friends were hanging out, you'd have 2 guys that were playing the basketball game, and 2 that were playing the football, and 2 playing baseball. So you would, but I loved my buddy Warren especially. He and we would play that game just almost for hours on end. And it's nothing but little like hashtag. Little hash marks. So.
Yeah. And for somebody who didn't understand football, it was very, very difficult to understand what in the world
was happening. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because it's just the darker of these little dashes is the the guy with the ball or whatever. So anyway, it was crazy.
But I remember those. Those were definitely an iconic toy from the early '80s.
That's right.
And definitely one of the precursors of all the advanced electronics that we have now.
That's right.
Handheld, whether it's the Nintendo game, one of the Game Boys, or the Switch, or even our phones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's wild to think about how far.
Someone should create an app with that game on it that I can play on my phone. So.
Yeah. All right, that's a great pick. So my next one is going to be. Well, let's go ahead and go. This was not like my first love affair with toys as far as a collection and action figures, but it was probably my biggest one, and that's gonna be G.I. Joe.
Oh yeah, okay.
So G.I. Joe, specifically the 3 3/4 inch figures that came out, a Real American Hero, you might know it as, came out in I think 1981. Now I missed that wave. I didn't get into them then, but I started seeing the cartoon that came on after school. Loved the cartoon.
Yeah.
And then started reading the comic books, and from there it went into the action figures and kind of went back and got a bunch because people were older kids were at the swap meet selling their stuff that they didn't play with anymore. So I was picking that up, and that had easily the biggest selection of vehicles, the biggest selection of action figures, bad guys, good guys, and I loved that on the back of each card, the figures came on cards, on the back of each card was like a file card of like, okay, this is, Stalker, he's the Ranger, and like, here's his story. I cut out those cards, I mean, I memorized them, and like, to me it was just so cool. I think that was kind of what got me interested in the military.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Just kind of seeing that, I mean, just the way that they did that story was awesome. I had hundreds of action figures and easily 30 or 40 vehicles or bases at one time.
Now, so was G.I. Joe a way to kind of market the military, or was it that just kind of came as an added benefit?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. I think that it was an added benefit, but because Marvel Comics, writers from Marvel Comics actually wrote the cards. And, like the backstory, and kind of wrote the television show.
Is that right? Okay.
As well as, of course, they did the comic book.
I was never really big into G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure the whole story, but that's interesting.
Yeah. It was just it was fun in that time, and I love the idea that it wasn't like they had some stuff that was like us against Russia, but it was just this terrorist organization.
Yeah.
Cobra.
That's right.
Out for world domination.
They're the bad guys.
Yeah. And and there's going to be a new G.I. Joe movie coming out.
Is there really?
Yeah, when we get back to the movies.
At some point,
hopefully.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm excited for that.
Good. That's a great pick. All right. So my next pick, action figures as well. Probably the action figures I had the most of growing up, and were most associated with my childhood, and that is the adventure people.
Oh yeah.
So the adventure people, I had them all. I had the firefighters, and I had the deep sea divers, and I had the airplane and the helicopter, and I think what I liked about them was it really established them kind of as heroes, right? The whole idea was to go on this adventure and to rescue someone, or they had rescue heroes that came when my kids were little. They had the little rescue heroes action figures, the kind of oversized
chunky
guys, chunky guys. But these were I loved these. And again, my kids growing up, they went and played with them. My mom kept everything. She's like a hoarder. She keeps everything. But even today, when I see them, when I go to my mom's house, there's just something that just brings back this feeling. Flying the little helicopter around, and I had the gripper. You'd pull the trigger, and the gripper would grab the boat and pick it up. And so those were great. The adventure people were so much a part of my childhood. My younger brother, neighborhood friends, we'd all get together and bring them. We'd go down to the creek and we'd float the boat. Anyway, those were great. Love the adventure people.
Yeah, anything like a piece of string that had a winch or something like that was awesome, or anything that floated in real water.
That's it.
That was always like the height of action figure-dom.
No doubt.
So yeah, the adventure people was great because they had more realistic styling.
They were very realistic
as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like G.I. Joe. That was the thing about G.I. Joe that I really liked. It was sort of, especially the weapons were very realistically styled. The colors were kind of fantasy.
Right.
And then of course, it transitioned later on to where everybody was a ninja, and that's kind of where it lost me.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, the Adventure People is a great one.
Yeah.
So my next one, my list kind of reads like the toys that made us.
Yeah, sure.
So my next one is going to be another one that had a cartoon associated with it, and that's going to be Transformers.
Oh yeah.
To me, I love the idea of the Transformers. When I first saw the commercials, I liked it because it had the robotic voice.
Yeah.
Another one that was written by Marvel Comics kind of came up with the backstory of the Decepticons versus the Autobots, and really it was a toy that kind of centered around a story.
Yeah.
And it's funny, growing up when we did so many of the toys, it wasn't just like here's a toy, go play with it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like you got a toy plus a story along with it.
You sure did.
And that has really influenced everything coming forward, because now every toy has to have a story.
That's right.
It can't just be the toy.
No.
Because nobody knows what to do with it anymore.
That's exactly right.
But the Transformers were highly technical toys.
Oh yeah.
The fact that it was a realistically styled vehicle or object, and then it transformed into a robot. And for a boy, preteen boy, probably nothing was cooler in the world.
Yeah.
And so many hours just transforming them, imagining what adventures they might have.
That's right.
Again, I like the bad guys better than the good guys. Yeah. My favorite people were the Decepticons. Primarily because they mostly changed into things that flew as opposed to things that drove. And because I was never really a car person or a truck person, as it were, the fighter jets were just a more fun vehicle mode to me. And of course, my favorite was Soundwave, who was a Walkman. And he could eject smaller robots from his chest. He had this synthesized voice. It was just so cool. I just love that. I would get off of school and run home, sprint home, so I could make it there, and I could watch almost all of Scooby-Doo. I missed the first commercial break, and right after Scooby-Doo was off, Transformers would come on, and back-to-back G.I. Joe.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
That was my afternoon.
That was your afternoon.
I was set.
Yeah. The ABC School Special, right there. That's you. I love that. So, no, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's even today, to be able to look and to see and to experience how the memories related to these toys.
Oh yeah.
Because they were more than just a little action figure that you did something with. There really was an adventure, because there was a story associated with them, and they interacted and interrelated with other toys. So it wasn't, here's your baby doll, go figure out what to do with this. These were toys that had already designed a world that they existed within, and so to go explore in that world, there's such an adventure to that, and
absolutely,
I think that's highly influential.
Yeah,
no doubt.
All right.
Good. Okay, so next for me, I'm going to go with kind of what would be typical for a lot, certainly boys at the time. Not sure about boys today, but cars were such a big deal because of Hot Wheels, Matchbox cars, And so that's my next favorite toy from growing up. Loved playing with them. Would have the little tracks, that you could run them around, and you try to get them to do loops, and you would trade Matchbox cars and Hot Wheels with other people, and you're looking for that particular car that you most like, Ferrari that you most liked,
Yes.
or what have you, the truck, or what I remember, and I can still remember to this day, one of my favorite Matchbox cars or Hot Wheels, I'm not sure which one, but was a little van that was the A-Team van.
Yes,
I loved that van, and was never going to get rid of that one. Played with it all the time. I think the wheels got all bent up.
Yeah,
But
the paint starts chipping.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was a favorite for sure. So loved those.
Yeah. So Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars both were great toys. My personal favorite was Hot Wheels, and it had a reason for it. And I want to see if you had the same experience.
Okay.
Hot Wheels rolled better.
Yeah.
I always felt like Hot Wheels in the 80s rolled across a smooth surface a lot better than Matchbox. Matchbox seemed to get more of the licensed stuff. So like if you wanted the A-Team van or the Magnum PI Ferrari or something, you were getting the Matchbox one.
Yeah.
But Hot Wheels always rolled better.
And I think part of the reason why, because I remember that as well, and I think it's because the Hot Wheels were designed to operate with the various tracks that they had, make the loop-de-loop tracks.
Right.
They had to roll well in order to do that. So maybe the axles were a little sturdy or something.
And I love the fact that Hot Wheels and Matchbox both were all die cast.
Yeah, that's right.
And nowadays there's a lot of plastic in them, and they're just not the same.
No. It doesn't hurt nearly as bad when you throw them and hit your little brother with them.
That's true.
So, which I did a lot.
I did that too. But that was great. I would love getting across. Like we had this linoleum basement. We'd get across the basement and like roll the cars at each other.
That's it.
And that's how the paint got chipped.
Of course. But that you could do that with metal cars.
Yeah.
Die cast. You can't do that with plastic.
Yeah.
They're gonna break.
In some of the cars, actually, the doors opened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was fun. That was always
That was always cool.
That was the first thing. As soon as you popped it out, you'd roll it and does the door open?
That's right.
Do something
Absolutely.
else.
And they had some these cool design cars as well, like dragsters, and those were always really cool.
Yeah, I think my favorite car was the Speed Racer Mach 5.
Yeah.
I remember having that one.
Okay.
And I think again that was a Matchbox.
But
I really remember the track. And to get the car to go, you would have to turn this crank.
that's it.
And it would turn these, you had gears and whatever, turn these little rollers, and your car would, when it would go down, shoot it out. I mean, and you could really get cranked that thing up.
Absolutely.
And then
it would just keep going every time it would come around.
Yeah, it would just keep going. And then, of course, you would have, invariably, like, put your hand down. Now, put your hand down like this way so it hits the sensor part. Okay, now get your little brother to put his head down.
Put his head down there, yeah.
So, yeah. Or build a ramp. Let's see what we could jump. Oh,
that's
so fun.
Those were great times.
So, yeah.
Great toys.
Yeah, Hot Wheels is a great toy. Wasn't on my list. So, okay, my next one, and again, this is another one that appeared on Toys That Made Us, is going to be Lego.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Lego, and funny enough, Lego is still just as popular, if not more so. Lego is more popular now than it ever was.
Yeah.
Lego was just an awesome toy. It didn't have any of the licenses it has today.
Yeah.
But to me, that was the quintessential toy that really came with no story.
That's right.
It basically was, here's your box of bricks.
That's right. Build stuff.
So whatever you like.
Yeah.
And I remember just spending hours upon hours building stuff with Lego or with a Rector set. But I love Lego because I love the minifigures. And the Rector set didn't have any minifigures.
Oh, yeah.
And so anything that I got into, whether it was Transformers or G.I. Joe or Star Wars, always Lego was like, okay, I'm going to build a base for my Star Wars people or for my G.I. Joe people or something with Lego. And I never had the colors I needed.
Right.
So everything was always red and blue and yellow.
Always.
And I'm like, okay, we're on the planet of Hoth,
colors.
and here's my trench, but it's red and blue and yellow.
Yeah.
We got to come up with some reason for that. So.
Absolutely. Now, did you like the Duplos? Did you like the big ones too, or just the little ones?
No, it's just always the little ones for me.
I'm the same way.
And I think probably, I don't know if Duplo was a thing.
I don't know if it existed then. I know they had kind of the knockoff Legos, but they weren't nearly as good.
Now, I know that when my brother was a baby, he did get a Duplo set, because I remember playing with him with that.
Yeah.
But I never got into the big. For me, it was just always the small ones.
Yeah, okay.
And then I remember as I got a little bit older, I got some more advanced sets, like with the space theme, and that was probably my favorite theme growing up.
Oh, sure.
Primarily because I never got the castle theme. The castle theme would have been my favorite theme, but I never got it.
I got you.
I guess my grandparents wanted me to be an astronaut as opposed to a medieval lord.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad. And everything space growing up to me was huge.
It was, yeah.
When I was in, I don't remember now, maybe middle school, elementary school, middle school, something, a group that we were in, we built like a space colony. So we studied futuristic space colonies, and we built one. It was in the public library in a little town where I grew up, and I remember we used like old milk cartons, and so you'd clean them out and dry them out, and then those would be the buildings in the space colony. It was but everybody wanted to be an astronaut growing up. So I never wanted to be a fireman.
I don't think I did.
There was never. I don't ever remember someone. What do you want to be when you grow up? Wanting to be a fireman.
It was an
I
astronaut.
don't know. But yeah, an astronaut was it. So that was good. All right. So the next toy for me, very similar to Legos, is Lincoln Logs.
Oh yeah.
I loved the Lincoln Logs growing up, and they were so different than a lot of these other toys because this was just pure construction.
Yeah.
And but what I oftentimes would do is I would marry the toys together because I would build the fortress out of the Lincoln Logs and then use either the Star Wars figures or the adventure people or whatever in association with these forts that I'm building. But I always loved forts. That was a big thing growing up for me. Loved to build them outside in the woods, and our neighborhood was growing when I was growing up, and so there was always construction wood that as little kids we could go and steal and build our own forts out of, or borrow to build our own forts. So Lincoln Logs I just absolutely love.
Oh yeah, and I did too. I never had Lincoln Logs myself because I ended up having a Erector set and Lego, and it was kind of funny because my friend growing up, Ray, he had Lincoln Logs, so he was like the Lincoln Log family, and I was the Lego guy.
Right.
And it was like, for whatever reason, he just kept getting Lincoln Logs. Yeah. I don't remember him ever saying he liked Lincoln Logs because he never really liked them. He just kept getting them. And whenever I'd go over to his house, we would play with that. And it was the same thing. We'd build that fort for, it'd be like the Old West outpost for the Star Wars figures.
For the Star Wars figures, that's right.
But yeah, I remember Lincoln Logs and how cool they were and how neat of a construction aspect it was. But you could only go so high because everything was a square and it would start to shift.
Absolutely, that's it. Yeah,
and then you had problems. But it was a neat construction aspect.
Yeah.
So that's great. All right, so my last one is going to be one that that I kind of had this toy and kind of didn't. And that would be model trains.
Oh, yes.
So something about trains has always fascinated me. I've always loved them, especially model trains. One of my fondest memories as a child was going to, of all places, the local fire station.
Yep.
Every Christmas, the fire station would set up this huge model train display for Christmas. And my grandfather would take me there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just a community thing. They didn't let people in. I don't know if we had to pay. But I remember, as early as I can remember, we would go there every year and see that. And just the level of detail and modeling that they put into that was so cool. And then the trains added movement, which just fascinated me. And of course, growing up in Baltimore, trains were just all over the place because of so much industry and things going from place to place. I remember driving, seeing the train, having to wait at the train tracks. That was always fun for me because I was in no hurry to get anywhere.
That's right.
My parents were always frustrated by it, but so I love model trains. And we got one, and my it was always my dad was like, it's not a toy.
Right.
And so it was this big process to get it on the track and get it set up, and then it was once run, don't touch it.
That's right.
And so as a young kid, it wasn't that much fun. It was fun to watch it go around, but it was just a piece of plain plywood with a train going in a circle. And I'm like, this doesn't look like what I'm seeing at the fire station.
That's right.
So I wanted to kind of develop this whole world. So I spent all my afternoons after school, when I wasn't watching cartoons at the local hobby shop, probably drove that poor man nuts.
Yeah, sure.
And he model train stuff was expensive.
Very much so.
And so it wasn't until I started working that I got like a model train.
Yeah.
And then I tried, kind of cobbling together stuff and making it look right. And I just didn't have the artistic ability to make it look the way that I wanted it to look. And so, so I kind of gave that up. But I can't be anywhere that there's a model train and not go visit it or dream about having a model train.
No, I'm with you. And I loved model trains growing up. My dad got my brother-in-law, our first model train, and it was a piece of plywood with an oval, and the train went around. And then it suddenly became my dad's hobby. And the garage got cleared out. My dad built this massive city, and our job was not to touch anything or play with anything, but we did put together the little model. So we would build the little the little storefront and this little village piece over there. And it got to be the whole garage was filled up, and
awesome.
my dad would, he would get the trains and he would paint them the color they were supposed to be. He spent all his time out in the garage doing that. And what was cool was being able to like change, you'd push the button and that would change the switch, and the train would go a different direction and change the speeds of the trains. And so you could have several going at the same time. It was amazing. And my class, I remember as a kid in 5th grade, my class going to my house on a field trip. That was the field trip for the 5th grade class, was to go see the model train set. And later, once he gave up that hobby, he sold everything. And the guy that bought it from him still travels around and sets this up in malls. And so it was a massive collection. He kept a few things, so I've got several dozen trains and some controllers,
that's cool.
but they're in the attic. They're not set up. But now that you've mentioned it, I may want to pull it out. So, yeah, you never know. But love model trains as well. So. All right, so my last one is Army men. No, they're not Army men now, they're Army people. But back in the 80s, they were Army men. And loved Army men. Just absolutely had the greatest time. The ones that were laid down that were crawling, and the ones that stood with their rifles.
And walkie-talkie.
The one with the walkie-talkie. And, even walking the figures was fun. So I loved setting them up and having battles and just envisioning, just dreaming about what was going on. That was such an iconic part. Every time I watch one of the Toy Story movies, there's just something about, especially the first one, but there's something about those Army men that just, it pulls on those heartstrings.
And I'm with you. The Army men were great because you got a bag full of them for like $1.50 or whatever, and it was at least 50. Which was neat because you had enough to you could divide them up and you could have an opposing battle. And if you were lucky enough to get the two colors,
blue and green,
or tan. My friend had tan and green. And it was neat, but my friend would never play right because I'm with you. I would meticulously set them up, and like in my mind there would be this big battle, and my friend would grab a tank and just drive all over everything. And I was like, that's not how you play. But in his mind, that's how it would work. And in reality, that's more realistic.
More like it is
than what I would than what I was doing. But for me, there was nothing better than going and finding like a little dirt area, maybe a construction site. Like digging like a little place and then pouring water. It's like in my mind that'd be a river.
That's right.
Now you got people fighting across a river. Oh, so much fun.
Spent so much time playing with Army people.
And they were great because that was just such a simple way and so inexpensive.
That's right.
It's just great.
It was fun.
All right. Well, so I think that's it.
I think that's it.
5.
That's it.
So there's our list. How about you guys? Please leave those comments down below. Let us know. Leave the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it.
That's right.
And if you have any of those questions that you'd like us to answer later on, please leave those. We'd love to do.
That's right. We want to hear your comments. Make sure that you subscribe, give us that thumbs up, and let us know what ideas you have that we can talk about, because Steve and Paul really do discuss it all.
We do. We do. All right. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.